Hi, this is Peggy Rojas, host of Viviendo una Vida en Balance. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
This is Kim Meyer, the host of Choose to Rise here on Public House Media. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you're done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out my show, Choose to Rise, where we talk about living with positive mindsets, how to increase our confidence, building our faith, and living out our life on purpose. A new show comes out via podcast every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And if you want to catch the episode live instead, stop by Public House Media around 6:45 Central Standard Time, Monday, Wednesday, Friday as well. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you'll never miss an episode of Choose to Rise. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
And people joining the Public House. We've got a new one joining our rotation of panelists this evening, and we'll get to her in just a minute. But first and foremost, the Public House is best found by going to thephmedia.com. You can subscribe to our podcast there and check out everything else that you can see from Public House Media. As we always do, we talk about a numerous variety of topics here. This week's topic, we will be talking about what makes a good role model and why so many people often are drawn towards athletes and celebrities. Before we get into that, though, of course, we do our intros as we always do. My name is Baxter. I work in social media and marketing. And the funny thing we're talking about this week, our funny icebreaker about us, is a commonly misspelled word that I do all the time when I'm trying to type it or write it is the word opportunity. I can never remember if there's one P or two. Sometimes I end up with too many R's and too many O's, and I just all of a sudden I'm just a hot mess, and I just ask, hey Siri, how do you spell opportunity? And it ends up working out much better for me. But that's me. That's one of the many words that I spell wrong on a constant basis. That's why I do more talking than I do writing. So it's been working out for me so far. But enough about me. Let's meet our next panelist, Maddie. Hi, Maddie.
Hi, Baxter. How's it going?
Great. Thanks for coming.
Cool. My name is Maddie Wunderle. I am another Wisconsin resident here, and I do marketing for a large corporate facility. And yeah, I do that Monday through Friday. And many times during that, I have to spell, for whatever reason, maintenance. And I just really cannot get that you have to spell 10 and then ants.
Yep, 10 ants. That's how I remember how to spell maintenance.
10 ants is what I taught myself last week at the ripe age of 23, how to finally nail it, I hope. But we'll keep you updated on how that works out for me.
Maintenance. I definitely have to do the other word for me is beautiful, that I have to like beautiful. I have to say it like, I forget what movie was that. It was a Jim Carrey movie many years ago, but he said it like that. But that's how I remember.
Evan Almighty, Bruce Almighty?
I think, yeah. Might have been one of those. But either way, let's not forget about, though, our third and final panelist this week. Joining us for the first time is Ashley. Ashley, welcome to the Public House.
Thank you. So my name is Ashley Kuhn. I'm a registered nurse, and I'm working night shifts, so I'm up at all different hours of the day. The word I probably misspell the most, I would say, is morning, like good morning, because I always put like the morning, like grieving morning. So I always put the U in there, and I shouldn't, but I always have to use the bit emojis and that to correct it, just to stay on the safe side.
Morning. Interesting. That's another interesting one. Yeah, the guys, like I said last week, we had Josh and David and Connor were talking about all those different words, and it's amazing how that could be a right way to spell it in one area of the country or the world, and then you're a total silly person because you can't spell one specific word in another part because we said it like this over here. That's another show as you know for last time. But morning, interesting. That's one that you have issues with at times, but that's one of the funny parts about it. Sort of people listening be like, these are some easy words, but listen, we never said we were perfect. If we were, we probably wouldn't be here. But either way, all right, ladies, speaking of being perfect, one of the things that we all try to do in our life is try to be the best version of ourselves. And oftentimes what that means is we look to others to try to be the best version of ourselves. And that's where the conversation of a role model comes in. And our topic this week, our conversation that we want to have this week is what makes a good role model. I put the question out on social media on my channels and got some really good responses on what certain people believe is a good role model. do you have any role models? There's that whole extra layer in that capacity as well. But I want to start with we'll start with Ashley. In your mind, Ashley, what do you feel makes a good role model?
For me, I find the best role models are the people around me. I do not idolize as much celebrities and athletes because to me they don't have an everyday lifestyle. So I actually really rely on like my mom in that. And I see everything she has done, how independent she is. And those are the people I inspire to be. Or I have competed in pageants and that before. So sometimes I see people that have a similar as me, such as Nurse Kelly. She was actually Miss Colorado. And she was a registered nurse. So then I idolize people like that where I can really relate to, where maybe I have something in common. Maybe it's pageants, maybe it's job, maybe it's just different likes. And I think sometimes they make the best role models because they're relatable. And if you were to meet that person or if you see them daily, you can talk about your issues and get advice from them. And I think where a celebrity or an athlete, sometimes you don't have that connection. You don't have their phone number to actually talk with them and to get some advice on how they made it to where they are today.
And I think that for me is a big thing also. And we're going to get into that celebrity and athlete discussion here in just a little bit. But that relatability, I was talking with my wife before recording and I asked her this question and she mentioned to me, she's like, you always hear that phrase, the 5 people you spend the most time with is kind of a reflection of who you are as a person. And she said, those 5 people I want to be my role models because I want those to be the ones that are making me a better person. I want to be growing because they are such high quality people. So it doesn't have to be some lofty, successful person. In a sense, it could be, your mom, it could be your aunt, it could be the lady at the grocery store, whoever.
Sorry to cut you off, but I think sometimes too, it's people that maybe you are envious of something that they are really good at. Like, I know for me, sometimes people are really good at talking with others. And I used to be very envious of that and outgoing. And that was something I struggled with. So then I usually idolized those people that were very good conversationalists.
Interesting. I've never thought about it in that capacity. Maddie, where do you sit on this conversation?
Yeah, I kind of did the same thing as you, Baxter. I asked everyone in my house, and I was like, hey, what makes a good role model? And I think we all came up with a lot of similar ideas, and it's someone who you personally know is like your favorite role model. For personal reasons, not just a role model, but someone who you know is going to show up and follow through. And so because of that, you have trust with them, you are able to respect them, you're able to just know that they are there for the right reason, not to just go batcher on you, but they follow through and they show up. And so that is, like you were saying, Ashley, something that you can aspire towards and actually implement into your life every day. And so you follow into your role models' footsteps like that.
And for me, I think that's an important part about it too. And I've got this couple of phrases of what a good role model is based on what I've heard from other people and what I kind of put out on social media. And the ones that you ladies both kind of hit on them. Transparency, being someone that's going to be in the trenches with you, going to meet you where you're at, unwavering support, has a good balance between logic and using their heart, is a good listener, truly cares, is loyal. Those are all big parts of what a good role model is. For me, I mean, I'm in a position where I'm a father. I've got, almost a 2-year-old son, and I've got another one on the way. And it's funny how your role models shift throughout the progression of my life. It was athletes when I was growing up because that's what I wanted to be. It was broadcasters when I first got into my profession. And now a lot of the role models in my life I'm looking to are their dads. I'm looking to see, okay, that dad, his kids turned out pretty well. They're in college or out of college, and okay, they seem like they turned out pretty good. So trying to lean on some of those other men that are in my life and say, hey, you seem to have done a pretty good job with your kids. Mine are still really young. What can you teach me? What can I glean from you? And how can you be a potential role model for me to be a good father, to be a good husband as you're trying to raise kids? So, and I know it's all about where you're at and you're in your life, obviously, but I've noticed that for me, who I thought were my role models have changed a lot in the last 10 years or so. I've gone, like I said, from that professional athlete to a professional broadcaster to now looking at it from a father and a parent perspective and trying to, like you said, not be envious, but at the same time be like, hey, you're doing something right. I would like to learn more from you if I can.
Do you think that role models and mentors fall into the same category?
I personally don't, because I feel like a mentor I feel like a role model, at least the term of what a role model is somebody that maybe is not as deeply involved in your life, where I feel like a mentor is someone that's easier to contact.
Okay, I agree with that. Okay.
I think a mentor more is someone who is there specifically to help teach you and get you through something. Mm-hmm. I think especially at work, you see that. Where role models, sometimes you don't have a direct relationship with them, or sometimes you only see them on occasion.
Right.
Where they're not as somebody that's ingrained to do something for you. Mm-hmm. They're somebody that you idolize and you kind of take things from, or that you want to become more like them, I guess, in a way.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I mean, that can be said sometimes about, really good speakers or authors or just people that work in maybe the media industry where, that they're not fully invested in themselves, in the sense like they're not very full of themselves. But when you see them for a short time, or maybe even people that, might do the local news at your place, like if they come off as a good person, you're like, okay, I see them and I know that they're relatively tangible, but it's not someone that I'm spending my time with. Like where you were saying, Ashley, it's not like maybe you that has someone that works on your floor as a nurse that has been there 20 or 30 years and has said, hey, come under my wing, let me mentor you, let me get you to where I'm at with all of the knowledge that I've acquired over the last couple of, decades. And that is more of a mentor, whereas the role model, like I said, I feel like is more of that, not as easily accessible, but somebody that, you maybe might meet a couple of times, or maybe might be someone that you can follow their journey, but you're maybe not as easily accessible to lean on them and to glean information off of them. So that begs a good question, though, to kind of look into the debate about why both of you feel athletes and celebrities get such a big push for being role models. I feel like we see this a lot for young children. Obviously, they're trying to pick out their favorite football or basketball or baseball, depending on the sport you play. Soccer is a big one too for role models. But why do you feel that is the case, that so many people gravitate towards? Let's start with the athletes before we get into celebrities. But is it just looking up to somebody that's made it, especially if they've got a good backstory? You hear so many basketball players that have come from nothing and played basketball and got noticed by a scout, and then they finally made it to the NBA, and they finally had enough money to, pay back their mom who was working 5 jobs, and now here they are, and they've made it out. They might change a little bit as they finally get all that fame and all that financial backing, but do you think that might be one of the reasons is some of those young kids are trying to look for that relatability and say, hey, this is my story, and LeBron James or Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan, they had a similar story, whoever it might be, and I want to be like them, maybe not because of the success on the court, but maybe because of their backstory? Or am I looking at that from the wrong perspective?
I think sometimes it's looking more at, I want to be the best soccer player out there, or I want to be the best golf professional there is. Like, I think Tiger Woods is a good example. Like, a lot of younger kids used to look up to Tiger Woods. Right. And I think that's because they just wanted to be as good as he was in that sport, or he is in that sport. Mm-hmm. And I think then as children grow, it's kind of like how you said before, your role models do shift with how your life is at that time. I think sometimes then they look more at the lifestyle. They like the name out there. They like seeing that this person is sponsored. So they want that. Everybody wants that lifestyle of where you're, I guess, rich and famous sometimes. Your name's out there, you're getting sponsored. That's usually one of the goals in life many people have, but as we know, not everybody can have that.
Right. Yeah.
We have to have some people that are middle class, and we do have the upper class, or we do have some that are in the lower class too.
Maddie, what about you? You're a sports gal. I mean, you've done a lot of different things in your time. Where do you fall on that?
It's interesting because you sometimes look at how a player plays and why am I making all these references today? How a professional will play. But then you hear about in the news, like someone does something super snarky and all of a sudden, or illegal, or they get arrested and they pull like a Chris Brown, but it doesn't matter to some people and say, hey, I still like their music. That doesn't matter to me. But he physically abused his girlfriend. So at the same time, it's like, oh, where do you draw the line? And it can be really difficult with athletes too, because football players, you literally coach them to go and tackle somebody. And if you hurt them and they're not in the game anymore, that's kind of okay. Like, why? Like, let's not. But at the same time, I watched 3 hours of football today. So where, like, how do I say that that's a good role model if, let's jump over to JJ Watt. He is an incredible guy off the field and on the field, and he plays with so much emotion and just so much heart. And he just, you can tell. And so I think his story is what draws people in.
Agreed.
And you see what he does with what he's been given from the NFL and just the different opportunities that he's built for himself. And so that's something that really has stuck out the last 2 years, year and a half, from him, or Drew Brees with Hurricane Katrina and different things like that. And it sucks that like a tragedy has to happen for that. But those are kind of the names that stick out to me, per se. For those are the kids that you see parents want them to be fans of.
I agree with you on that. I know, like, The Blind Side, like, that's a very good example of how a good role model for young kids out there. But on the other hand, there are some athletes that are not good role models. Like, I don't know how much you watched the Brewers this last playoff game, but there's some players that they take out their the bat in half. And those athletes, I don't look at highly, I guess, compare the story. And a lot of times I think that story is more relatable. So it makes you like that athlete that much more.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's always hard too, from my perspective as someone that did play. And now I'm on the coaching side of it. And I look at how kids will look up to you as a coach, especially if you're a young coach. I mean, I'm only 26 years old and, I'm still within relatively, striking distance of some of these kids that I'm coaching in middle school and high school, and realizing that, hey, I need to watch what I say when I'm coaching. I need to watch how I act, and is, how I'm coaching them reflecting on how I play when I play in the scrimmages with them as well. And there's all of that extraness that you have to watch that maybe you were looking for as a player, and now you flipped it. And I think that's what so many people are watching for too. I mean, our kids, like you referenced the Brewers, our kids going to be watching, Manny Machado, the way he slid in and caused that big controversy with him sliding in and kind of taking out one of the Brewers players. Are young kids going to start doing that on the baseball diamond? I really hope not. But at the same time, if that were to spike up, are these kids just saying, I'm just trying to be like Manny? Like, he's in the big leagues. He only got fined a couple $1,000s, but he's a multi-millionaire, whatever. He's playing the game. He's trying to do everything to help his team win. So finding that line is hard. I mean, there was a huge fight in the NBA a couple of days ago as well. Some really notable players that just got into it. They spat in each other's face and they started throwing punches. And it's like, come on, like these are high level athletes that represent the United States and, the Olympics and are the face of the NBA, and here they are picking a kind of a recess gym class fight with each other in the middle of a basketball game. And it's silly things like that then you kind of have to, from my lens, like I said, as a parent now, as my kids get older, I mean, that's something I need to look at and say, guys, like maybe we won't watch this team anymore here. Maybe I shift my boys to try to look at something else. And I know obviously you can't protect your kids from everything, but at the same time, trying to at least guide them in the right way, saying, hey, this person over here is a good role model to try to follow if you want to, try to be a good, athlete in this specific sport. Like they show up, they put in the time, they're humble, they do really well, but they're not, jumping in the other guy's face and showing off, and they're not making obscene gestures at the crowd when they're booing them. It's, it's finding that balance, I think, is so important and often missed a lot, unfortunately.
And I think it's very important for like parents to really encourage sportsmanship.
Yes.
I think sometimes that's the most important trophy at the end of the season, because someone who is always saying congrats on the great game, like you guys won, but also saying to the team that lost, like you did a good job, you tried your best, gave it your all. That is also one of the most important people there are.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree.
And not being the parents.
Yes.
Sorry.
And that
the parent that runs off the sideline screaming at a coach. And
Yes, that's the part that kills me.
That's never a good thing.
No, if you're a parent and you're taking that away from your kid's game because you can't keep your mouth shut or you're getting into trouble, that's another discussion for another show. But still, that's a big thing. And what kind of a role model are you being as a parent? You can kind of tie it back into that. So it's sad to see, and it happens far too often, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I think it starts really young too. Like you have to start encouraging sportsmanship when they are, right away from birth, I guess you could say. But when they start in the 5, like at T-ball, like at 5 or how old they are, it's right away. It's not they get to high school and now we're going to try and be really supportive of them and congratulating everyone, because as we know, our childhood really makes who we are. Yes. And sometimes it's very hard to change once you get to those high school years.
Exactly right. Yeah. By that point, I mean, my wife is a 4th grade teacher, so I've gone and visited her class a couple of times, and I see the way some of her kids act, and some of them got really good heads on their shoulders, and then some of them are kind of messing around, and I'll ask her sometimes about the students and be like, yeah, unfortunately, mom and dad are kind of like that a little bit too, so you can kind of see where it translates, and then I see that on the coaching side of it when I've got kids that are really well behaved, and I meet their parents, and I'm like, oh, I can see why your kid is so well behaved. Mom and dad are awesome. They know how to keep their kids in line. And then you meet the kids that are just screwing off, and sometimes their parents, unfortunately, are kind of a little screwy themselves, and you're like, okay, also interesting. And sometimes it's totally different, and I don't want to say that is the case across all, but that's a common occurrence sometimes, is unfortunately where mom and dad stand on either discipline or sportsmanship, like you were saying, Ashley, can play a huge role moving forward for everyone else. But let's deviate briefly as we get ready to kind of wrap things up with the celebrity side of it. You look at people like, the easy one that comes to my mind for why so many people look up to them are the Kardashians, or why so many people jump on the movie stars. You can obviously flip it and say you've got Oprah, you've got Ellen. There's a long list of celebrities. Really anybody can be a celebrity nowadays if you've got enough Instagram followers. But it's amazing. It's sad but true. But why do you feel like so many people in that capacity? Let's go like more stereotypical celebrities. Why are so many people looking up to what the Kardashians are doing, or why are they trying to live their life like Kylie Jenner or Justin Bieber or Selena Gomez, or the list goes on and on? Why do you feel like that happens, ladies?
It's kind of funny. The Kardashians were the first ones I thought of too.
Right.
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
It's sad.
I think it's just because of the lifestyle. You watch the show, you see the Land Rovers, you see this big fancy house and all the views and that of their trips.
Yeah.
That lifestyle, it sounds glorious.
Right.
And I think a lot of people just are envious of that because they don't work and they can yet still have this glorious lifestyle.
Well, isn't that the dream for so many people, right? Is like, hey, if I can be a multimillionaire and not have to do a darn thing for it, okay, sure, sign me up. Where do I, and then you've got these people that have found a way to do it. And sure, you can say, okay, well, they do a little bit of work, like Kim's got her fragrance line, and like they do a little bit, but it's not what you and I would consider work. And they're not in the trenches every day working hard to make their income.
It's a lot of the jobs the jobs they have now are from just having a name. Like, I know Khloe Kardashian, she promotes a jean brand or something. It's being more of a spokesperson. Yeah. Which that it doesn't require a college education. So, I mean, they have this glorious lifestyle, never went to college. I believe they all finished high school and everything. But, I mean, they get to live it up. They get to come and go as they want. They can work with whoever they want. And they just keep it up by, marrying wealthy. I know, like, Kim married Kanye West, and that's when now she has all those contacts, and that it just keeps on getting bigger, this empire. And nobody actually really works, I think, in it. I know the mom manages, but I mean, they can pick everything they want to do. And I think a lot of people are envious because most people are not, I would say a majority of the society is not happy in what they're actually doing. A lot of it, I see so many people switch their jobs after college, their college education, they don't actually use because maybe a different job pays more money. So if it pays more money, they can do more things. Or, and that's a big factor today as well, because a lot of people do have debt and they want this glorious lifestyle, but it costs a lot of money. So then they end up working a job that's not in their field and to pay off those bills.
Mm-hmm. Exactly right. And I think that's where I think so many people fall short or give up on their dreams as well. It's because they're looking at those people and be like, well, they did it and they didn't have to do anything. And here I am working so hard and it's just not worth it. And then, that can transpire into so many other things. Maddie, what about you?
I definitely think that celebrities in that sense are the reason why people hate on Instagram for being a highlight reel, because that's where I think it's based off of, with just showing all the highlights of their now life compared to the nitty gritty, how they got there. And so the real role models that I want to follow on Instagram, I don't follow many celebrities. I follow Ellen DeGeneres because I think she's absolutely hilarious, but she talks about her struggles all the time and how hard it was for her when she was completely shunned from the whole industry now that she capitalizes on, where she just rocks the freaking world out there. And she does it all and she's such a kind person. And I don't think the people that she really enjoys herself on, her episode that I'll catch once a month for, daytime television, that she just glows when she gets to speak with people that are just so kind and get to talk about their charities and different things that they're doing as a real role model in this world and how they can make a difference. Mm-hmm. Kind of moving over, I Googled earlier, celebrity top 10 best and worst. And I just thought it was so funny that, to top the Kardashians, Miley Cyrus is still rated number one worst role model, which I was like, okay, it's not 2013 anymore.
Right.
Like,
she's not twerking anymore.
She's kind of got herself together a little bit. Yeah. She went through a phase. She went through 2013 Miley, like 2007 Britney. And
I bet Lindsay Lohan was on there too.
Oh, I didn't. I looked at the first four. I didn't even see.
I'm sure she has to. Yeah, Lindsay has to be on there.
She has to be in it. Yeah. But they're getting their, some of them are getting their stuff together. Some of them aren't. Like, I'm sure Kesha could have been on that in 2010. She could have been on the list, and now look at her, blow up.
I think how, like you mentioned with Ellen DeGeneres, I think what attracts so many people to her is she's positive. Mm-hmm. And in today's society, there are not a lot of positive people. There's people
it's contagious, yes,
being negative, especially on social media. We see more bullying nowadays. So I think when you see somebody that gives back to the community, like Oprah or Ellen DeGeneres, and they do it in a positive manner, highlighting what these individuals do in their communities, I think it really attracts a lot of people to follow them.
Agreed.
And they think very highly of those individuals.
Yes, and I would completely agree with that also. It's one thing if you can kind of put on a face, but it's another thing when your face actually matches your personality and you're actually that same person through and through. And it's always amazing when you meet celebrities. Sometimes I've heard numerous stories of people that have said that and be like, oh, I finally met my idol and whoever it is, and they're really not that nice, and I'm really disappointed. And it happens way too often, unfortunately. I've got a friend of mine that is a reporter that works with the Green Bay Packers a lot, and I've asked him about numerous players. I'm like, hey, how's this person? I've always thought they were really cool. And he's like, Yeah, really not, unfortunately. Really kind of a basket case, or, you know, other creative words that you can use, unfortunately, to describe people that are not nice. And he's like, it's kind of disappointing, unfortunately. I was really hopeful that this person was going to be a better person, or, you know, I was really excited to meet them too, and then turned out that they weren't. So it happens far too often. But when you meet those good people and you're like, no, they're a good guy, she's a sweet gal, like through and through, like they are, who you see is what you get. Like that's 100% that real raw person. And that's, I think, really important, and unfortunately still missing a lot in our culture and society today.
And Ellen does it while making you laugh.
Yes.
And I don't know if you guys laugh enough, but I can always use another laugh.
Oh, yes.
Especially, I think, in today's society, it's so stressful I know I'm a student, I work full time. It's always good to laugh. And that's part of what attracts me to her show. I'm an avid Ellen DeGeneres watcher, too.
So I'm friends with Maddie, so I laugh every time I see her interact.
Ah, so there we go.
That helps. That's
right. Keep it up, Maddie. Keep laughing.
Go Maddie. Everyone needs a little bit more of a dose of Maddie in their daily life.
Oh, stop.
Well, on that happy note, we do need to wrap up things, but I want to open the floor to any final thoughts from both of you in regards to our discussion tonight. Ashley, since you're the newest one on the panel, let's start with you, and I want to thank you first off for being a part of the Public House. We're thrilled to have you and excited to have you moving forward as well for other shows that you've already signed up for, which we'll get to at a later time, so we won't give away too much information, but any final thoughts or comments that you wanted to just kind of get out before we wrap up the show?
Well, thank you for having me. Actually, it was a lot of fun talking on here once we got past those technical difficulties.
We won't talk about those.
I would just say try and be the best person you can be by looking up to those positive role models like Ellen DeGeneres that give back to their community, and that's make you smile and laugh. And I think that's one thing that we can always do is try to do the small little things in our society is like open the door for somebody that's maybe has 2 boxes behind them. Yep. Just doing the sweet little things. And I think we can make a better world. And just, like I said, a smile goes a long ways too. I know like I said before, I work as a registered nurse, and I'm known to be like Smiley Ashley, because I do smile a lot. I don't know why. It's just contagious, I guess.
And that's a huge thing, especially in the medical field. You need those extra little doses of happiness, because it might not always be the best reason why someone's at the hospital, unfortunately. Maddie, what about you?
I think we wrapped it up pretty nicely here with just coming full circle and saying that, good role models, and what makes them is being someone who is actually just kind and cares about people. And I think I'm just going to leave it at that.
That's pretty straightforward, honestly. I mean, I think for us, that is the biggest thing. I mean, like that list that I kind of went through before, you want someone that truly cares, is loyal, is going to meet you where you're at, has that transparency. I mean, that unwavering support, that is a huge, huge thing. But even for those people that we might consider role models that are at that celebrity status, someone that's just raw and real is like, hey, I'm the same person on social media that I am in real life, that I am on this, that I am on this. It's like you're getting unfiltered me. This is who I am, and I think that's a big part of it, and really building up what that role model feature can be and what that status can be for a person. So you might not even know who you might be a role model to. Also, when I made that post on social media, somebody that commented tagged a person that they had, and that person was like, I had no idea you felt about this. So it was kind of cool to see that there was a little moment there happening just in the comment section. But I was like, oh, that's really sweet that person decided to finally publicly say thank you and say, hey, you were such a role model to me. I think she called out her high school teacher, and I was very grateful for her. So it was numerous years after she'd been out of high school, but it was really cool to see. So you never know who's watching. You never know whose life you might be impacting on a daily basis. So keep that in mind as you go through. But ladies, I want to thank both of you for joining this episode of The Public House. A reminder, the show does come out every Tuesday morning for you at 5 a.m. Central Time, as do all the other great content that comes out from Public House Media. If you want to listen to this show or listen to old shows, just head over to thephmedia.com, click on the shows tab, and you'll see The Public House right there. That's how you can subscribe. That's how you can find all of our upcoming episodes as well. A big special thanks to everyone that's listened to our previous episodes and continues to support the show. A lot more exciting things are coming up. We've got some fun ones about Thanksgiving, about Christmas, about fun historical things coming up on the Public House. Just stay tuned to our Facebook page and to the website, thephmedia.com. For Maddie Wunderle, for Ashley Kuhn, I'm Baxter Colburn saying thank you very much for joining us on another episode of The Public House. We will see you next week, and until then, be a good role model. You never know who's watching.